It was so funny. I left the house for 2 minutes. You know what we do? You have big huge family. We have a culture. So we're summer streets, parallel to our street. When I left home, it was just some small things. I was on the verge. It was like blizzard. And before I even got to 54, it stopped. Like just this one area was getting so fun. And then I was driving, not by you, but in that area. Where the, it was so small. And you know, it was coming out. Right, you got to before you go to the left. I can swear that you live in Germany and me, international school but there was some event here in town. People just abandoned the bodies. It just seems they've learned that you're not all right. But they didn't have to. So they isn't worth the investment. And you just get the word out better. Hey, don't leave your house to the point where, right, exactly. I was just going to say, to the point where they have no credibility. So, right.
Well, good morning. Whoa, sorry. I just found out that the mic is working. Hope everybody's having a great day. Thank you for being here. Tyler asked me a couple of weeks ago, literally a couple of weeks ago, do you mind teaching? And I was like, I can't think of why I shouldn't, or okay. I do like teaching Sunday school classes, and I am the type of teacher that loves input from the class, the audience, whatever you want to call yourselves, students. of the Bible. So I particularly like to learn from other people's point of view. You have different life experiences of which I want to learn from. If you have been successful, I want to learn how to be successful. If you'd made mistakes of which came with consequences, I would like to learn those too, so I would avoid those consequences. I believe that's one of the reasons why we have the Bible, so that we can learn how to be successful people, happier people, and also to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that Satan throws in our way. We are going to be studying the book of James. As you saw earlier, we have 2 other teachers. And we are going to be doing things a little bit differently in that we're not going to go verse 1 and then from there forward in a scriptural linear fashion. We're going to be doing it as far as a more topical lesson plan from that standpoint. I love the book of James. I love things that will make me, help me to become a better person. James, you hear, if you go on Google and you type, what did James look like, you get all kinds of paintings and pictures. This apparently is what James looks like. I don't know. I think we could probably say with good confidence, this is exactly unlike what James would have looked like. I think he looks a lot more like Henry VIII more than anybody else, and he looks a little bit like JC if he was having a little head thing on. But let's just pretend that is James. Now, the name James for the book is who we attribute the author to. But there were 4 men in the New Testament who were named James. So which James are we talking about? Does anybody know who are the 4 James? Or can you shout out 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of them? James, the son of Alphaeus. That is one of them. James, Jesus' brother. Very good. What'd you say, David? Son of Zebedee. He had a brother too, right? Named John. Okay. And there's a 4th one. Anybody? James the Less. I'm not really sure who's James the Great. James the Great is son of Zebedee, who would have been one of Jesus' 12 apostles. I'm not exactly sure who James the Less is. It might be the brother of James. But there is also a James who is the father of Judas, and that is found in Luke 15 and 16. Let's read Matthew chapter 13. If I can get to it fast enough. Verses 55 and 56. Since I have the microphone, I will read that for us. Now, it's interesting. This verse helps us understand Jesus' family life a little bit more. 13:55. Is this not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas, and his sisters? Are they not all with us? Where then did this man get all these things? So they were offended by him. Essentially, this is the scenario where they're in the synagogue, and he is being recognized as the hometown boy. He was raised with these people. He has brothers. He has sisters. What credibility should they put in this boy who was raised to become a man? But I can kind of understand their point of view from that standpoint. You would not have expected him to be the Messiah. It is most likely that the author of this book is James, the brother of Jesus. Now, was James, the brother of Jesus, considered an apostle? Would you have, you're saying, I see a little no out of you. Anybody else? So, interesting thing about the word apostle. So, who do we think of when we hear the word apostle? We think of the 12, the ones that Jesus handpicked and said, come follow me. And that's ties into what Chris provided in his lesson this morning. Apostle means one sent. So it wasn't until much later in Jesus' ministry that James, his brother, became a disciple, and also you could consider him an apostle because he did also go out and preach as well. Maybe that's the James the less part. I'd like to look into that more. So, what else do we know about James, the brother of Jesus? Some historical records show that it was thought that he was martyred in the year 62 AD. Possible causes of death could have been, or are thought to have been, that he may have been cast down from the temple and killed in that manner. It's quite possible that he may have been beaten with clubs, or that it was a result of possible stoning. In any one of those would have been a horrible way to die, but we do know that he was a martyr who died in the name, for the name, and for the cause of Jesus. Now, it is also, there's some interesting other history. Number one, the book itself was most likely written between the year AD 48 and the year 50. And it was thought that he was buried in Jerusalem into a tomb. And it was very customary at the time that a body would be put into a tomb for 1 year and then taken out. Then what do you do with a body after a year? Well, you would put it in one of these, an ossuary. I'm thinking that's how you pronounce it. Is anybody familiar with the ossuary of James? No. Kind of interesting. If you like architecture, or not architecture, I love architecture, but archaeology, which I also appreciate, archaeologists found this box, and it is an ossuary. It is not, it's not in the Louvre, it is not in the museum in London or any place like that. It is actually owned by a private person. He has put it in some type of a rotation from within other museums, but what is curious about this particular box is that it has some markings, some handwritten markings on the side. It's not that big. It's actually probably about the size of this tabletop, which is what you put the decayed and whatever's left, the bones of a person. When you take it from the grave, the tomb, those bones are taken and, I guess, disassembled and put in a box. What's interesting about this box is that it has an inscription on it. Who can read this for us? Anybody? I know my handwriting's not as good as it used to be, but maybe this guy was a doctor. It kind of looks like some physician may have written this. Probably not. Here's what's interesting about this box. The person who owns this box says that it is the actual container that contains the bones of James, the brother of Jesus. And the reason why he believes that statement is because of these letters and what they essentially spell in Aramaic. It says, James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus. Well, that narrows it down a little bit. They have tested the box and analyzed the box and confirmed that it does come from the time of James and the first century. They've confirmed that. There's been a lot of speculation of the writing, because it's thought, well, anybody could have just carved these into the side of the box and claimed it was legit when maybe it wasn't. So they analyzed the script and they can't disprove it. So it's up to you whether you want to believe it's true or not. But it even went to court. There was a lawsuit regarding it, and the owner of the box was acquitted because he was being accused of faking an archaeological find, especially with a biblical tie-in. I just appreciate, I'm interested in that kind of stuff. The only thing close enough to that type of observation, April and I were traveling in Spain. We were in Valencia, Spain, and I love cathedrals. Again, I'm an architecture buff. There is a cathedral in Valencia of which they claim they have the Holy Grail. There's a big room. We walked into it, and it's about so big, and it's an alabaster cup that has been added to, and it has a gold rim and a base, and it's beautiful, and it's in this very secure spot, and again, this room is huge. And I picked a little brochure, and something caught my attention when I was reading about the validity of this being the actual Holy Grail. I should have brought it with me, but I'll paraphrase what it says. We know that this is the actual cup that Jesus used, the actual Holy Grail, because no one can disprove that it isn't. And I was like, that's genius. That's brilliant. So maybe we did see it, maybe we didn't. Probably we didn't. Turn to the book James. I'm going to start asking a few questions. We're not going to read the whole book today, but we'll go ahead and get into that real quick. To whom is the book written, and how is that audience different than the other epistles and New Testament books? Written to the 12 tribes, if I can say it. How is that different from other epistles? Like 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Thessalonians. Say it again. Those books were written to a specific congregation of the Lord's church. This is a much more broader audience of which it is being addressed to. So it's addressed to the 12 tribes, scattered abroad. It's not a specific congregation. And it's also, steered towards Jewish converts to Christianity, and especially those that are poor or were poor. What is the purpose of this book? If you've studied the book of James in the past, what might you summarize the book of James to teach us? Any thoughts on that?
Power of the tongue.
Okay, power of the tongue. I think so. To whom it is written, we did that. What is the purpose of the book?
Encouraging the Christians, even like you went through all these bad times.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of that this morning. So it's a book of encouragement. Any thoughts, else? Mike? Endurance, perseverance. Yep. Okay. Okay, so good observation. So Alan said first couple chapters are giving advice or enlightening the reader to the relationship between God and yourself. And then the last half of the book being interpersonal, person-to-person type of issues. Yes, Sherry? Okay, reinforcing what Jesus had spoken from the Sermon on the Mount. That's a great observation. Janet? That's interesting. The Proverbs of the New Testament. I'd never heard that before, but that totally applies, I believe. Have you ever read, who here has read a self-help book? Don't be ashamed. Not that many. Okay. There's people who joke about self-help books in that it's the author that's actually helping you. You know, it's not just you yourself. I've read a few self-help books and have benefited from them. I think this is one of the ultimate self-help books. It is very practical. It's like Proverbs in very many ways, in that as we go through these studies, you think, wow, that is good, solid advice. If I apply that to myself, I will be a happier, more productive person. Who doesn't want that? That's what the whole self-help industry is all about. If you ever watch YouTube, there are countless videos on what is known as a life hack. A life hack is kind of a new phrase, but essentially is a shortcut, or it is a technique. Maybe it's a little gadget. You can take a bottle of Coke and do amazing things with it. Clean your car battery. You can clean your toilet with Coca-Cola. You can do this and that. You can cut the bottle open and turn it into a funnel of which you can put your oil into your car. There's just all these kinds of neat bits of information that may or may not apply to you. But we can know for sure that this book applies to all. Practical aspects of Christian life would be a good way to summarize that. Subjects include handling trials and temptations, practicing pure religion, understanding the difference between faith and works, proper use of the tongue, display true wisdom, being a friend of God and not the world, the value of humility, patience, and prayer. These are all things of which James, the book, can help us with. Let's turn to James 1:22. If there is one key verse, I'm jumping ahead of my lesson, but if there was one particular verse of which would tie the book into a nice little bow, a nice little package, it would be James 1:22. And it says, "But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving ourselves." What's the difference between being a hearer and a doer?
A lot of hearers are not good listeners, so they heard it. I won't name a certain sex, but there are some humans that are not as good listeners as others.
Okay.
So if you don't really listen to what you're reading and hide it in your heart, it was useless.
Okay. So you can hear. Maybe you're a good listener, maybe you're not. There is a difference between hearing and listening, is there not? I can hear my child call out for help, but if I'm not listening, I just hear noise. I don't necessarily understand the situation. Any other thoughts? Okay. Hearing something, you know that phrase, knowledge is power? Everybody, that used to be a buzzword back in the 90s, 80s. Yeah, kind of, sort of, knowledge is power. But if you don't use it, if you don't apply it, if you get a big tip on the next big stock that's going to go gangbusters, but you don't buy any, you don't benefit from that. that tip. That knowledge is useless to you. In some ways, I think we could look at Satan himself. Has he heard? Yes, he has heard, but he is not a doer. So does Satan believe that Jesus is the Son of God? Yes, he does. Well, does that mean he's going to heaven? No, it does not, because he is not a doer. So it really helps to emphasize that what we hear, what we learn, number one, we need to be listening. We need to be seeking out the Lord's word. But the second most powerful part of it is the doing. Deceiving yourselves. Do humans do that? Do we deceive ourselves? Well, sure we do. I was joking with Melissa and Alan a couple of months ago. I was telling them I was noticing that I was gaining more and more weight, but I had told myself, well, this is because I was lifting and doing more exercise, and that it was muscle that I was putting on. And when my pants got a little too tight, I figured I need to cut back on my sit-ups. I was deceiving myself. I thought maybe that carbohydrate diet I was on, meaning 100% carbohydrates, I thought that was helping, but no, it wasn't. We need to stop deceiving ourselves, and maybe that is an influence that Satan is having on us. Satan doesn't mind us hearing, but he sure does not want us doing the Word of God. So let's read verses 1 through 4 of chapter 1. If I can get to it. Oh, did I pass it? Here we go. James, a bondservant of Christ and of the Lord Jesus, a servant of God and of, let me start over. James, a bondservant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. What is a trial? And we're not talking about the legal term of which we go to a courtroom and discuss a case. What is a trial of which this verse is talking about? A test? Being tested? Okay. April had mentioned that when you consider your faith, your connection with God, a trial is a test of that faith. Any other thoughts? Trial. Do you like having trials? Wouldn't you rather just not have any trials? But what kind of people would we be if it weren't for those trials? I looked up in the dictionary and found multiple definitions. I skipped over the one that was referring to the legal term of a trial. A trial is a test of the performance, qualities, or suitability of someone. An athletic contest to test the ability of players eligible for selection to a team. So if you've ever had to try out for JV or varsity, whether it be baseball, basketball, football, maybe it was the math team. Well, actually, math team, they'd take anybody, wouldn't they? But perhaps a venture, a sport that you want to participate of which you had to prove yourself worthy of being on the team. Another thought, a person, thing, or situation that tests a person's endurance or forbearance. And then Google defined this as a biblical term. It said, difficult experiences tests or hardships, tribulations, that God allows to strengthen faith, develop Christ-like character, perseverance or patience, and refine a believer's heart, revealing true reliance of Him, being God, rather than being random suffering or punishment. That came right out of Google. And I was like, wow, that's pretty encouraging. Google's got, some solid Bible in there somewhere. So each of these, I believe, help us understand what a trial is. There are many, many commandments in the Bible. There are countless words of advice to make our Christian walk better. But let's look at verse 2. Here's something that just at first glance strikes me as really, really curious. And that is, in fact, when you first read it, you think, is that a typo? Because that seems ridiculous. And what I'm talking about is, my brethren, count it joy when you fall into various trials. That key word, joy. When we think of the word joy, we think of the ultimate happiness that we can feel. When you find yourself confronted with a trial, does your brain immediately think, I'm in joy right now? April got didn't get a flat tire. She got a screw in her tire. And I texted her because she was in the bathtub and I was in the garage, and I pumped up the tire and I put bubble soap on it. And I texted her and said, you got a nail in your tire. And she texted back and said, oh, poo. She was not being joyful. You should be more joyful. Yay. What might you, a lot of it's your point of view. Well, you could have said, thank you, Lord, that I didn't have a flat tire in the side of a deserted road with sub-zero temperatures. You could have been joyful that you got home. There's other ways that, perhaps we might need to consider. But isn't it understandable or even expected that when a trial hits that we should be unhappy? Or that we should be unjoyful? I don't know if that's a word. The opposite of joy. Is that more human nature? Of course it is. So I believe right off the bat, James is hitting us with kind of a pretty challenging bit of advice here. Is it even possible to be joyful through a trial? When we know of someone else who is going through a hardship, do we mention to them, how happy you must be going through this trial right now? Or perhaps you might say, oh, I wish I could go through a trial like that. Oh, man. No, we don't say that. That'd be the last thing you would say. That would be cruel. That would be insensitive. That would be unhelpful, and you might lose a friend. Have you ever heard the phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger? Now, that's one thing that if it's you saying that about your own trial. But do you want to hear that from somebody else about your trial? No, you don't. That doesn't help. So something we got to be careful about. So here's a question that I'm going to submit to you, and I'd like you to just either raise your hands or shout it out. Let's go as fast through this list as possible. Doing a little brainstorming. When it comes to life, whether you can remember as far back as being a child to your life today, consider the trials that you have been through. And these don't necessarily have to be your trials, but we all know what life is like for ourselves and other people. So I'm going to make it even more generic. Of the trials that a human can experience from childhood through adulthood, throw out some categories of what types of trials come to mind. Say it. A death of A family member, a loved one, friend, death is a big trial. Somebody said something else? Illnesses, okay. Say it again. Financial, okay. You got big bills coming in, or maybe another impact that somebody over here in the corner. Say it again. Training wheels. How is that a trial? Okay, that is a trial. That's going to tie into something that I'm going to touch on. Anybody else? Just there's 1,000 of them. Just shoot them out. Temptations, breakups, relationship problems, maybe divorce. Church splits, very trying.
Devastating.
Yeah, that's a good one. What else? Again, it doesn't have to be yours. Let's say these are not your trials, so you don't have to feel awkward or self-conscious about them. I'm going to start throwing some out. Separations, families, we just left the holidays, and that's a time where a lot of families look forward to getting together, and that's also a time that other families don't look forward to getting together, or they look forward to leaving the holidays so that they don't have to go through those stresses. So families can be very trying. Things at work, you ever be in a dilemma at work, or perhaps an ethical dilemma at work? That can be very stressful, very trying. Here's some others. Poor health, we talked about, not only for yourself, but for a loved one. An injury of some type. Car accidents. How many people have had a car accident? Quite a few. Wow. That's a bummer. That's a big hit to your happiness. Especially if they total your car when you think it's worth more than the insurance company does. A failure of a task. Perhaps a failure at a sport or a project. Perhaps your goals or dreams not being achieved. That can be very trying. The growing weight of debt is a big try. You kind of talked about finances. Debt is crushing. Loss of jobs. How many people have lost a job here? That is not good. I will say this, though. April is one of the most brilliant, hardworking person that I have ever met. She has lost her job three times. But those trials, I feel, number one, made her a better person. But it was evidence to us that God was in control because something better always came next. And a lot of the opportunities and the blessings that we have today are because she was let go. She has never been fired, but she has been laid off, and it was crushing, very stressful when it happened. But in looking back, we have God to thank for getting us through. And anyways, I could make a whole lesson about that. So loss of job, being treated unfairly. Once I got a speeding ticket because two other guys were racing. They didn't get pulled over, but I did. Between San Antonio and Houston. Don't ever drive through there again. I was actually going the speed limit, so the cop clocked them instead of me, but I'm the one who had to pay. Unexpected high tax bills. Have you ever had one of those? Those are awful. When you think you've submitted your taxes and the IRS says, not enough, you got to pay more. That's not fun. I've never been audited, but I hear that can be a trial. Battling the weather. Maybe you've had damage of your home from a storm. We knew a family in Fayetteville who had a direct hit from a tornado. Their house was wiped out, their barn was lifted and tossed. It looked like a bowl of spaghetti with all the metal that was twisted. One one horse. They had many horses. One horse died, and another was lost. They searched for a full 24 hours. This horse had broken its back in previous years from an accident getting into a trailer. This horse was found with both legs crossed, a tree that had fallen over its back, and one underneath it. And yes, that horse's name was Lucky. But he was alive. But I've never, ever seen storm damage like that. And it was amazing to see how supportive the church was, but just the peace of mind that this family outpoured, being thankful for their lives since they were in the house when it was hit. So, storm damage. Does a trial have to be a negative thing? Don't we usually think of it as
It's like being polished.
okay?
It can polish your strength and inner core
Right.
when you realize you've survived it and God's with you and you have support from your fellow Christians. And
So the result of a trial can be very positive.
I think it does
Go ahead.
help our growth.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to talk about that in more detail. One thing, when we consider things as being a trial, a new job, we talk about a lost job being a trial, but sometimes a new job can be a trial. Raising children can be a trial. There's a guy at the gym, he tells this joke more than once, I've heard. He said, how do we know that Isaac was 12 when Abraham laid him on the altar? Because he was a teenager, it wouldn't have been a sacrifice. So raising children, all right, I don't know if that ties in, but I like that joke. Training for a sport activity like mountain climbing. Is church attendance a trial? Well, maybe it is. And yet we know it's the best thing that we should be doing. But a lot of people have to go the extra mile to make it happen. But I do believe that God blesses them because of that. Can you think of a trial earlier in your life that today you feel like is no big deal? Does that make sense? That maybe the trials of your teenage years, how your appearance was a big thing. Does this boy like me? Does that girl like me? The stresses of wanting to date someone. There's a lot of things that doesn't even come to mind. Maybe there are other examples. I think part of that's the polishing that we get over the years. Isn't it nice that we don't accumulate these trials? Many of them are water under the bridge. So what changed? How did you change? Did your environment change? When we're experiencing a difficult trial, there is a choice that a Christian can make regarding their relationship with God. What is that choice? You have a relationship with God, a trial comes in, you have a decision of which you can make regarding that relationship. Say that again? Trust him or don't. Another way it might be, does it bring me closer to God? Or do I find myself separating myself from God? Very good, Claudia. Yes?
Boundaries of your limits of your physical abilities beyond what they can do. In fact, in muscle building, you actually damage or destroy parts of the muscle tissue as it builds itself back.
Right.
And it's if you think about our faith being tried in that manner,
faith that never gets tried atrophies.
Okay.
Just like the physical body, if you want to develop strength and stamina and build long time ability to do something and be stronger, you have to test it beyond its current levels to be able to build strength and endurance.
All right, very good point. So for the sake of those who didn't hear that, bodybuilding or weightlifting or improving your physical ability or endurance can only be achieved but through training and the breaking down of those muscles so that they can become stronger. Absolutely, great point. What about blaming God for a trial? Say that again? It's easy to do, is it not? Is it a fair thing to do? To blame God for a trial? Does the world blame God for trials? Why did God let this happen to me? Do Christians blame God? I think we can fall into that temptation very easily. One thing that we need to be honest with ourselves is that it diverts the responsibility from our own act. Let me start over. It diverts the responsibility from our own actions. Because a lot of the trials, if we're honest with ourselves, are because of the decisions that we have made. Right? There are so many problems with addiction, and Bill works with people who get addicted with chemical substances. A decision was made to try it once, or because they became addicted. Now they have a full-blown trial of which could have been avoided, but it comes down to a decision that they may have made. Have we considered that drifting away from God, or perhaps falling into one of Satan's many, many temptations, is really the root cause of our trial? Who is the person in the Old Testament of which is famous for his trials? Job. I like this. I've seen all kinds of biblical artwork. This one really expresses what I think Job was going through. We're running out of time, so I'm going to go through this pretty quick. What would it be like if we did not have the book of Job? Have you ever thought about that? Job is such a powerful story. Have you ever thought to yourself, man, I'm going through a tough time, but at least I'm not as bad as Job. Job lost his whole family. He lost his servants. He lost his wealth in one day. Hammer. Can't imagine what any one of those things would have been like, and he got hammered. What was Job's reaction? Do you remember what he said at the end of the day when he's contemplating how this happened, why this happened? Everything was going great. Say it again. Okay, referring to God. There's another thought, another verse. That's close. I have it here somewhere. Well, let me back up a little bit. What kind of man was Job before his trials? Look up Job real quick. He's a good man, yeah. But there's some specific words that they're very distinctive. Look up Job chapter 1 real quick. Sacrificed daily. He was actually trying to sacrifice and appeal to God to cover the sins of his children. That's above and beyond. There's a specific word in righteous. Say it again, Richard. Blameless. Wow. Have you ever been given the label of blameless? Wow. There's very few people in the Bible or history that have been said to have been blameless. That's powerful. He did not deserve what he went through because he was blameless. Now, verse 8, God refers Job as an upright man. one who fears God. This is another powerful, distinctive word. He was a man who shuns evil. Do we today shun evil? I don't think we shun evil like we're supposed to. I think we kind of like to dabble, put our foot maybe in evil a little bit, or allow ourselves to be in the world just a little bit. I'm looking for that particular, here it is. The verse is in chapter 1. Here is what Job says after all those bad things happen. Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Who can say that? When you have a trial, is that where your brain goes? That's where his brain went. How can we explain why Job would react in this way? Job already had a thankful relationship with God and understood that his blessings came from God and not of his own efforts. That's powerful. Did Job blame God? In some ways, it sounds like he did. That God took these things away. But really what God did was allow him to go through these trials. Why do you think, I know I'm down here at the finish line here soon. What would be an explanation to why God would allow these terrible things to happen to Job? What would motivate God to allow Job to go through so much suffering? Have you ever thought about that? What is a unique quality about God? He is omniscient. I think I can say with confidence that God allowed Job to go through these trials because he knew he could succeed. Because he knew that a blameless man like Job would be an example for millennia. That he also knew that when Job persevered, he already had the plan to reward him. Was it not tenfold? And again, what a powerful story that Job is to us today. So I hope we can learn from trials and know that they have value, they polish us. I can say with all confidence that all of my failures and struggles have made me into the person I am today. And I feel like I can say with all clarity that they are so valuable to me. And then one last thing. I've known so many Christians in the Lord's church, and especially in this congregation, who have gone through really, really tough trials. I know that they have taught me and inspired me and have equipped me to be a more faithful person who trusts in God. Here's my last slide. Your example, I can say with all confidence, has helped me to be a more perseverant person. And I appreciate that. I think we all need to understand just how powerful our example can be to the people observing around us. I think that is one reason why we have the church and why God has made this organization for us so that these trials don't crush us. They make us stronger. And we can know that having watched a family go through a tough time and do so with grace and with confidence in God, that benefits all of us. And it makes us want to do the same for others when we have trials. So I appreciate your comments this morning. Let's be joyful when those trials come along, and let's become better for them. Thank you.